greetings to everyone. From the hidden archives, I found some old Speedpaint videos and decided to share them here. They showcase various drawing styles that my current comic project brings out. This video was made in July 2020, a time when I was creating a lot of fan art. Back then, I was contemplating starting my own comic, but hadn't yet decided to write my own story. I was working at a gaming company, writing scripts for a mobile game and also creating cutscenes with Unity. Since my day job involved a lot of creativity in different areas of game developing, I often didn't have the energy to write stories in my free time, and that's why drawing individual pictures was more relevant at the time. Batman is a familiar character to me, and I can draw him even in my sleep. And probably because we saw the 1989 Batman movie when it came out, and the movie costume is etched in my mind, as well as Brian Boland's version from The Killing Joke. The movie and the legendary comics that came out at that time were huge impact for the young kid back then. Brian Boland is mainly known for Judge Dredd, but his portrayal of Batman is my all-time favorite among all artists' renditions. I've never really thought about what exactly appeals to me in Boland's interpretation. It's probably the ears of the costume, because I always imitate them in my versions. I like that they resemble forward-pointing devil horns. Tim Burton's Batman costume also seems to mimic this design. I enjoy drawing action-packed scenes, which is why this particular subject was chosen. In real life, I detest violence because hurting someone is simply wrong. That's why I prefer to channel my frustrations into art and depict the darker side of life there. I saw Arnold Schwarzenegger's Conan the Barbarian when I was only 5, despite my mother's best efforts to prevent it. Fortunately, I had the best parents who taught me the difference between fact and fiction. As long as violence is on screen or paper, it's entertaining. In real life, it can cause injuries from which the victim suffers for the rest of their life. In the worst case, someone can die and there's no coming back from that. This should be obvious, but since there are all kinds of people on the internet, I want to make it clear who I am. It's fun to watch this old time-lapse video and see how differently I approached creating images back then. I initially focused solely on Batman and drew him in considerable detail before even thinking about the other side of the fight. Most likely, I didn't even know the overall composition until I decided to add the guy who is getting his face fixed. Nowadays, I work differently because creating comics is about transforming a script into images, so I already have the content planned in advance. Additionally, by sketching the image first with stick figures, you get an idea of how it will look. This way, I can avoid unnecessary work if the composition doesn't end up pleasing me. This drawing is more of a digital painting. Since I don't use much inking techniques here, I'm still debating whether to create my next comic with this technique or stick with one I've chosen for my current project. I enjoy the painterly quality of this method, but there's something satisfying and therapeutic about creating fine details with an ink brush. The advantage of this technique is that it teaches how to use chiaroscuro, which has also benefited my inking work where light and shadow are crafted with techniques like cross-hatching. As you know, Batman has been depicted in many different ways over the years. Personally, I prefer the large, unnatural bodybuilder version, and that's why I draw him as a hulking figure. Also, one of my other favorites, Simon Bisley, draws Batman with massive beefcake. It's kind of funny when you think about it. The guy is supposed to be a ninja and a master of stealth, yet he has this incredibly massive physique. It's even funnier that Bruce Wayne can keep his identity a secret despite his enormous body. But these are just minor details, and the main thing is that the character looks cool. If I remember correctly, Tim Burton said years ago in some making of documentary that if Batman were a muscular bodybuilder, why would he dress up as a bat? It's a good point and very fitting for Michael Keaton's portrayal of Bruce Wayne. No one would ever guess who is behind the mask in the 1989 movie version. antwort a short fan fiction where Bruce Wayne never leaves to study martial arts. Instead, he stays in Gotham to bodybuild. He uses his wealth to build his body through training and various steroids. The plot twist comes when Batman's mind starts to deteriorate due to the substances he's using, and Alfred is completely at a loss with him. The residents of Gotham begin to fear him more than the criminals themselves. The story was really fun, but unfortunately I never finished it. A friend of mine read it and cursed that just as it was getting interesting, the story ended. In digital painting, you start working in black and white to see the values and how they balance with each other. That's why you only see grayscale here, as colors tend to interfere with tracking values, making it easier to create gradients this way. At this stage, all the details are added to the image, which are then refined later. Initially, I used this method in my current project until I realized that the painterly quality didn't come through because the black ink dominates the images. Instead, I decided to use flat colors and add value shading afterward. All of this because it significantly speeds up the workflow. But back to this Batman Speedpaint. These overly muscular bodies are excellent subjects when practicing lighting, where the high area is bright and the low area is dark. Large muscles are like spheres where the dark shades lighten towards the edges, creating a three-dimensional effect. At least with this kind of character, there are many opportunities to experiment and compare results. This way you learn the touch needed to achieve the desired effect. At this point, I should probably apologize for the anatomy. I know the main muscles, but maybe no one should use this drawing as a reference. As a digital artist, finding the right tools and techniques can make all the difference in the creative process. Over the years, I've experimented with various digital drawing tools and applications, but one in particular has stood out and revolutionized my work. I work with Procreate, which I've been using for years. I remember when I first started with it, I was using some basic stylus that was available on the market 10 years ago. Then at some point I got an iPad Pro and an Apple Pencil, which immediately had a positive impact on my work. But the real breakthrough came when I discovered a film called Paper-like, which I applied to the iPad screen. After that, the pencil no longer had to slide on the bare screen, and the friction provided by the film really made it feel more like drawing on paper. And nowadays, I draw exclusively with Procreate and have abandoned traditional inks and drawing paper. In fact, I tried drawing on paper some time ago and found myself pinching the surface to scale the image larger. I've been using Procreate for so long that its interface is ingrained in my muscle memory. That's how it goes, boys and girls. Technology takes over and there's no going back. Procreate comes with decent brushes by default, and I still use some of them. However, I've also bought new brushes and found great tools among them. I can recommend True Grit brushes as they offer a wide selection for various needs. But even though technology is advancing, there are still many artists around the world who use paper and pencil. I follow their work and admire the results they achieve. In fact, there was someone on Instagram who made incredible ink drawings showcasing something that digital brushes have yet to fully replicate. It's a shame I can't remember the artist's name. It would have been great to mention them here. As you can see, Batman's character here is very dark-toned, which is intrinsic to the character's nature. Additionally, it's a technique to keep the character convincingly enveloped in the smoke that I've planned around him. I used the smoke to create a scenario where the viewer can interpret Batman surprising his target, perhaps with a smoke bomb or something similar. The smoke also allows me to express a sense of depth, as it enables me to divide the image into three distinct planes. We have the person taking the punch in the foreground, Batman shrouded in dark smoke in the middle, and the more illuminated smoke in the background. Drawing action scenes is enjoyable because it offers the opportunity to make the image come alive with the force of movement. it's important to me that the viewer feels the power being exerted in the image, and I strive to convey that every time. In this image, I wanted the punch to be felt by the viewer. It's as if the viewer steps into the shoes of the person taking the hit, experiencing the impact firsthand. And actually in this picture, it seemed more important to me to simply draw Batman in action. You can see that because I chose to draw some random guy instead of an iconic opponent. I've drawn several pictures like Spider-Man, VRS, Venom, or Batman vs. the Shredder, etc. But in this image, no better option ended up than an unnamed poor fellow. These kinds of drawings come up every now and then when my pen moves on the iPad screen while I'm watching something on a streaming service or talking to someone on the phone. When it comes to colors, I like to create colorful images. I should learn to use colors in a more minimalist way, and believe it or not, I've tried. Somehow, I always end up using a lot of colors, and the result is something like this. This video is coming to an end, and I don't really have much more to say at this moment. If you've watched this far, thank you very much. I hope you found something valuable in the video and didn't feel like you wasted 15 minutes of your life. If you enjoyed this, subscribing to the channel will let you dive straight into my comic-filled world. Your feedback can also help me grow as an artist. If you have any tips on different techniques, the comment section is open. Till next time.